Oh my gosh, you guys. I am here with the fabulous Nikki Cestaro. And you? What? Girl? Tell everybody who you are.
Who am I? Don't know. Who am I? Who am
Who,
I?
who are you? What?
I'm many things. I am a hairstylist for 35 years.
Mhm.
I am a salon owner for 19 years, just coming upon 19 years. And I recently wrote a book right
Right
here.
here.
You got yours too. Good. I wrote a book about the from beginning to now, from where I started to where I am now, all of the steps, how things were back then and to where they are now. And I've seen a lot, I have experienced a lot, and it finally just, my whole career, people have said, somebody really needs to write a book about what goes on in salon. And so I did.
You're like, I will answer that call. I
Yeah.
will do it.
Yeah.
I personally loved it. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
that you are a beauty professional. Number one, like, let's get that straight, right? Like, you are a professional, hands down. And then on top of it, you're like, you know what? I'm going to write a freaking book. And you
Yep.
did. And it's freaking good. And I love the fact that it's your clients can read it, but also your like your the stylists and your staff and other beauty and barber pros can read this too. Like I feel like it goes for both people.
I feel that it gives obviously people who are in the beauty industry and stand
Right.
behind the chair and do what we do,
Right.
they resonate. They get it. They'll laugh. They'll understand. They've walked miles in my shoes. But I think you're right. For clients, I think it really gives somebody who sits in the chair
Hmm.
perspective as to, we do make it look easy and it's,
Hmm.
you know it yourself, it's not. So I do think that that's a lot of the feedback I've been getting is from clients saying, you know what? I know you work hard and I watch you, but I never realized what it really takes. So I think that I have more clients coming in with me like, I brought you a coffee. Can I, or text me like, I'm coming in for my 3 o'clock. Can I get you something to eat? Do you want to? Because I think that they realize, it's our
Yeah.
job for nobody to see the struggle, but it is not an easy job. And we do it
Mm.
like with the ease of like a seasoned flight attendant and we get it done and we perform magic behind that chair. But I think it gives them insight that this shit don't just happen. Like it
Right.
really is,
Right.
there's something to it. And you really have to have the backbone to be able to withstand that.
I love it. Yeah. Okay, so people are always saying it, you should write a book and all this stuff, and you did it. But
Mm-hmm.
was there a part of you that always wanted to write a book, or did you just wake up one day and be like, today's the day?
You know what? I think like looking back to when I was a kid, being in school, the idea of not having to go to college to become a hairdresser was very, very inviting to me. So I was good in school, but it wasn't something I felt I wanted to do. But
Mhm.
writing was something I always turned to.
Mm.
Math, foreign language, it was not for me. But I always would it was like a cathartic way of like a private therapy thing. Like when you're a little
Yeah.
kid, you keep a diary, but
Yeah.
coming home and really like how you probably have driven home many nights like
Hmm.
in silence.
Oh, I you mentioned it in the book, and I was like, yes,
Yeah,
it's the
like
best.
almost like radio's not on. I don't even want to make a phone call. Like
Right.
you're soaking it in. It's very frustrating what we do. So
Hmm.
I would come home and like still in this daze and some funny shit would happen and I'd want to jot it down, but I would kind of turn to journaling as
Yeah.
like a cathartic little therapy session.
Hmm.
And I would actually once in a while like open up that part of my iPad and read it back. And I'd
Hmm.
laugh because it really was kind of comical. I always have like a little bit of, I find the humor in a lot of things. So
Yeah.
I would write it in a humorous way, but the creative writing aspect was something that, like, from childhood,
Hmm.
it was just a way that I could, like, maybe tap into my insides and just figure out what I was really thinking. And, like, many times you come home and you say to yourself, like, how much longer can I really do this? And I just felt like if I could just write it down and read my own thoughts, it would make me understand and it would get me up the next morning to do it again. So in order to stay
Oh.
on course, I felt like I never really intended to write a book, but there was a lot of material
Right. Right.
And I actually wrote this. I was writing for about 2 to 3 years, and I never even told my husband. And we're
Okay.
like this, but he was like, "What are you
Yeah.
doing? What are you doing on that iPad?" I'm like, "Oh, shut up! I'm on Instagram," but I really
Right,
wasn't. I
right.
was writing. And I read it to him one time, and I think we had a few drinks one night. And I'm like, "Can I just show you something?" He's like, "Why are you not doing something with this?" So if it really wasn't for his push, like I probably still would have just been journaling. But I feel I see differences and changes in our field, which some are great and some are
Hmm.
just, what, that's being a salon owner. That's the frustrating part of it. And I really feel that really propelled me to want to put this book out, because I felt, it is a beautiful industry, and we make people happy.
Yeah.
Like, tell me another profession that people are so excited to see you and that we can actually do that. And I see the newer generation almost pivoting when it's not happening that quickly for them, or they find they hit a brick wall and something went wrong. They just think they want to like jump ship and like
Yeah.
leave the industry.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer of teamwork. I own a commissioned salon. I hands down to anybody that wants to be independent, go on their own. But I love the idea of a team, and I'm seeing that starting to filter away.
Hmm.
And I feel the way I do things is not good for everybody, but it is good for me. And I feel that I am listen, it's successful. I'm
Right.
30, almost 36 years doing it. I have
Yeah.
something to say. So
Right.
my take, God's my take. But I felt writing this book would maybe be insightful to some that are feeling the frustration that I'm feeling. Maybe motivate the younger generation to say,
Yeah.
like, you know what? Put your big girl bloomers on or your big boy bloomers on, and let's get this done, and let's really put the hard work into it, because that's what it takes.
Hmm.
And realize that at the end of the day, it's really, we're so lucky that we do this and that we can be successful at it. So just trying to encourage others as
No,
well.
I was definitely encouraged. There were so many points in there that I was like, thank you. Amen. Like, oh
Yeah.
my God. Like
You get it. You
I
get it.
am I am seriously considering. I mean, I'm seriously considering purchasing one for everybody on my staff.
Oh my
Because,
God.
oh
Thank
yeah.
you.
Oh
Oh, it's
yes. Oh
amazing.
yes. Because there are quite a few points in there that you say exactly what we preach in my salon. You say
Mm-hmm.
exactly the frustrations that we're all feeling, especially with this like mass exodus to the renting space, which is fine.
Oh,
You got to do what works for you, right? And I really appreciated that you made an emphasis to the younger generation.
mm.
Don't fire your clients.
No.
Always work behind the chair. Understand the trade-offs of whatever it is that is going to work for you. Understand that. So I really, yeah, I'm like, I feel like a broken record. So maybe somebody else
Yeah.
can
And maybe
break
they hear it from
through.
somebody else's mouth. It's like your mom tells you constantly over and over. I have so many moms that will have to, like, they'll
Right.
say over the kid, like, don't cut bangs, don't cut it too short. Shut up. But if you know what? They hear it from me, they'll listen. So I understand, like your staff, yeah, you're like, bah, bah, bah.
Right.
They'll listen if maybe somebody else has the same voice. So I appreciate that you really took to
Absolutely.
it. I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even that part where you're like, the people come in and you just like get away, like the moms and the kids. Listen, we even have it on our bridal contract. Like, this is the bride's day. Stay away from her. Like, you sign here, stay
Yep.
away from her. Let us do our job. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
so while you're writing this book, did you feel like like it was a struggle? Like all of a sudden you were getting like opposition? Or is that why you didn't tell anybody?
You mean like the idea of me writing the book?
Yeah, like when you set yourself up to do something and then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden like the universe just like goes against you. Do you know what I
I,
mean? Did you feel that?
I actually didn't.
Okay.
I am an extremely, anybody who does know me, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Everything is all out there in the open. And my mom yells at me all the time. She's like, stop telling everybody everything. Don't tell them where you bought that. Don't tell them how cheap it was. No, I tell everybody everything. But held that one close
Mhm.
because I truly felt like, you know, I I didn't know if it would be successful. I value the fact that I always put 110% into everything I do. This was so different for me. So I really felt like I could get behind that chair and I could do anything. Show me a picture. I don't care what you call it. I'll get you there, or I'll get you close.
Mhm.
Always felt confident that with the book, I really was very vulnerable about it. I felt confident in my writing, but just for myself. So I never told my staff and my husband. I mean, listen, I trust him 100%, but
Yeah.
it wasn't hiding it from him as much as I needed to digest it. I needed to see. And I got when he gave me that go, like, why are you not doing something? I felt like I trust him wholeheartedly, and he would
Yeah.
always do in my best interest. I was very vulnerable about it. I will be honest. It was the only time in my life that I really kept my hand to myself. And
Hmm.
when I finally did come out and say it, it's like like if I cook for my family, I want to eat it first because I think it might suck. So like I just kind of hold back, and I kind of keep that to myself. But I'm getting very, very good feedback from it. So I feel I was foolish to not tell anybody about it, but I was just being very guarded for that reason. And I'm not hurting anybody's feelings in the book, and I apologize if anybody's feelings were hurt. I do tell a
Hmm.
lot of real crazy stories, but I also feel that it's my truth. And I
Hmm.
went through a lot through my career. And if I can't say what I went through, then what's the sense in writing the book?
Hmm. Hmm.
I will be honest, I was a little nervous about that. I had to go
Okay.
dig deep into Pandora's box of some of the things that I just shut away, and I never looked at. And when I was really writing this book and going through this, I had to. And I had to
Mhm.
open up that drawer and look. And I got news for you. It was a very, very angry weekend in my house because I was so mad at myself that I allowed some
Yeah.
of this nonsense
Hmm.
to come at me through my career. I know it made me stronger,
Yeah.
but I have this ability to like fold it up neatly, put that shit away, and
Hmm.
not look at it ever again and move forward. But when I had to open up that drawer and read it, I'm certain there are a few people that are not happy with when they read it.
Mm.
Uh, Unfortunately,
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do about it. I had to live it. So
Right.
I had to write it. So I think maybe that was a little tiny reason why in my brain it was like don't tell
Yeah.
anybody. Like I felt very guarded
Hmm.
for those reasons.
Yeah.
You know.
Have you had any people be like, "Was that me?
Oh
Are
yes.
you talking about me?" How
Oh,
did
I had say to me like, oh, I was there that day. Like when like maybe like a crazy client, or they'll go, I remember that. Was that the assistant? Da, 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 da. And I'd say, yeah. I mean, listen, there were a handful of people that I did write about, and I still maybe they formerly worked for me. I let them know, like, listen, I did not say your name, but I talked about you were the worst assistant ever, and that you got everybody wet, and but we're still friends. Like,
Right, it's
I never
different. It's
mentioned you. You're gonna know it's you. So they're like, oh, I'm so glad you didn't mention my name. I haven't gotten negative feedback, but I've gotten, like, was that my sister? Because I think that was my sister. Like people are guessing.
I think they're
So it's like,
guessing.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you speak of.
I
Maybe
don't
I'll
know.
have to read it. Read it again. Send it to your friends. Maybe they'll know it's
Maybe
you. You know?
they'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Make it a game.
yeah. But it is what's funny though is that clients will come in and say like, I was there that day. I remember when that lady called the cops on you, and I remember that day. And or remember that crazy woman and she was drinking that day, and I remember that she fell asleep at the table. Like there's so many things that go. I mean, listen, so much shit happens behind. I've
It's
had
so true. It's so
like
true.
I said earlier, somebody's got to write a book about it. Somebody's got to do a TV show. Why is there not a book about this? Like, I mean, like the salon version of The Help.
Yes, it was. It really is. This book, you guys
Yeah.
listening or watching, you have to get super Hairo. It is, you're gonna be like, what the heck?
Yeah.
What was your favorite story to put in there? And what was your story that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I gotta write it, but I don't want to.
I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I'll start with the worst first.
Okay.
The PTSD chapter was very difficult for me. Again, had to find the key for Pandora's box and open it up. And I dealt with a lot of shit,
Yeah.
and nothing terrible, but in the early part of my career, it's not a fun time branching from an assistant to a stylist.
Right.
So back in those days, there was this like totem pole that I was at the bottom of the totem pole. Like I got it. I got the memo.
Hmm.
I talk a little bit out in the book about how, like, at the end of the day, there I was, like, doing some hair behind the chair, but I was still responsible for all of the cleaning and the
Hmm.
shampooing of customers. And there were some individuals that would take advantage, and to make themselves happy, they would treat me in a way to constantly kick me down that ladder, where
Hmm.
you could have been supportive and you could have been a little bit more, understanding that you've walked in these shoes too. There were certain people that just took pride and like rubbed their belly over, like, I could be doing a haircut and maybe I'm still like, I'm new at this. And my boss at the time was always very supportive. And he taught me, like, this is your bubble. Don't pay attention. Don't look at her and don't look at her.
Hmm.
Stay in your bubble. So I tried my best. And trust me, I still to this day, I use that. Um, and the end of the day would come, and like here, her customer would be walking in and I'm with a brand new client, and she'd be smoking a cigarette out the door. And while I'm talking to this new client and acting as if I've done this my whole life, because that's how I was taught, like, you should always feel done,
Hmm.
she'd say, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
when you're done with that lady, my client's coming in, you can get her washed for me."
I remember
So now
this
that
one.
client, yeah, so like that client would say, "Why is she asking you to wash her clients?" And it was like a
Oh.
dick. And it was like it, and that happened a lot. So you know what happened? I had two choices. I could cry about it and I could let it affect me, or I can just surpass her. And it did.
Hmm.
So it made me work harder.
Yeah.
That is where the new generation doesn't understand that.
I get chills. Yeah.
They
They don't.
don't get it.
Mm-mm.
I dealt with it. And you know what? It made me better. So
Right.
you know what? Maybe in a way, thank you for being an asshole to me.
Hmm.
And it made me who I am. And it also taught me I didn't like how it felt. So I didn't do that to the generation that came
Right.
after me. My mother taught me, treat people the way you want to be treated. I didn't
Hmm.
that way. And I know that it was pivotal to my success. But I'm going to be honest, a lot of what I went through in those years were not fun. So as far as answer your question, that was probably the hardest thing. It was one of the last things for me to write. And some people who are very involved in my life understood why. And I uncovered some things that maybe were not as favorable to the people who will be reading it. Um, but I went through it and I felt it was necessary. Not
Mm.
putting it in the book would just be, why bother?
Right.
So that I would probably say was the hardest. I mean, I really cannot put my finger on what was the most fun, because I I still once in a while, like, a client will bring something up and I mean, that was my favorite. Oh, actually, that was my favorite. Oh, that was, I mean, we had situations where I worked as a hairstylist, not in my own salon, and that she hired this guy, and he was doing the weirdest shampoos, and he would like,
Oh my God.
and he'd be
What
like,
is
grab their, and I'm trying to catch his attention, and I'm like, I'm calling his name. I was throwing cotton balls at him, and I'd say to him, like, stop doing, just wash them. I took him aside. I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, you got to wash people. Like, you're taking so long. The clients were coming up to the chair and they were like, that was the weirdest shampoo ever. Because it wasn't like a traditional shampoo. It was like,
what?
I'm telling you.
A
So,
very it's a very sensual experience.
like, sexual experience, tantric experience. And you know what? I took him aside. I'm like, you cannot wash hair like that. Like, you can't do that. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? He goes, well, I'm trying to connect with their soul.
Oh yeah. Yes, you
I'm
talk
like,
about this in the book.
we don't offer like soul healing and connecting with souls. Like, just wash their hair. So, like, that's a funny one. I've had, you know, people, with the hiring and firing of people. And, like, I think I mentioned, like, it's like swiping right on Tinder. Like, it always felt like interviewing somebody was like, I was like going on like a blind date with somebody I met on Tinder. Like, is it going to go well? Is it going to end well? They can show up. You go in hopeful, and there's like, no, no booty call, like nobody's getting no happy ending for anybody. So I don't know. I probably would say, there's that chapter, you can't make the shit up.
I love it. I loved
Uh,
it.
Probably one of my favorites was the person who called the cops on me. I mean, there's a lot of
Yes.
that one. She was a real, how you have when your shit detector, the
Yeah.
batteries shit detectors,
Yes.
the minute she walked in the door, and she was started in with nobody gets my hair right. And yeah, she wanted me. This person who she said recommended her, who I found out later did not recommend her, just said, this is where I go, who apologized for anything that this woman could potentially do. I did her hair. Her hair was terrible. I got it where it needed to be.
Yeah.
She called, I mean, you read the book and you read
You
about it.
got to read the book. You got to read the book.
She wouldn't leave. She came to my salon. I wrote up a contract. I told her, I said, I'm telling you, if you have me highlight your hair anymore, your hair will fall out. Your hair is in terrible condition. I am doing what's best for you in the hair's best interest. And she screamed at me on the phone, I know what's in the best interest of my hair. I am the customer and I am telling you. I said, okay, you're signing a contract. She gave me a hard time about the contract. And I said, listen, lady, I own the right to not do your hair. I think you should leave. I think we're done here. And she said to me, I said, I don't really appreciate the way you're speaking to me. I said, I'm trying to do this. You understand that I'm doing this under duress. You're liable for it. The contract stated you needed to initial and sign. I made it very, very legal. If anything happens to your hair from this point on, it's on you. It's on me. I'm not responsible. And I said, I really don't appreciate your tone. She says, well, I didn't appreciate your tone when we spoke last night. And this is actually how she spoke. When we spoke last night, would you like to hear yourself?
No, she recorded it.
And I said, did you record our conversation? And she said, yes, I did. I said, we're done. You got to go. I'm not dealing with you. I'm dealing a different level of crazy. She wouldn't
Couldn't
leave
leave.
the salon. She sat there for an hour. I said, listen, I'm going to go have lunch. This is great. I'm going in the back. I'm done. I'm not touching you. She sat there. When she saw now an hour later, a new client comes in and my next, and I start working. And she just stands up and goes, I'm calling the police. This is ridiculous. She called the cops. The cops came in and they looked at her and they were like, lady, what do you want me to tell you? You got your hair done 2 days ago. You're not happy.
Bye.
You're not getting money back. You gotta go. He escorted her out. And he's like, oh my God, what do you do? Well, somebody should really write a book about what goes on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is the kind of stuff that people need to understand. It's not just about going to the salon and being Barbie. Like we're not playing Barbie all day.
I mean, that happens like maybe 25% of the time.
Right, but it is work. Like we love what we do, so it doesn't feel like work, but it's still work, you guys.
Oh, it's work.
You know what I mean? Like,
it is. But you know what? Look what that woman did. She gave me such material. And it's all valid because there were about 20 people that came in and out of the shop that day. There were a handful that were there with her on her initial appointment that were like, they were looking behind it and they were like, this woman's crazy. She's a little boss. And then when it came back in, they were like, people they didn't want to leave. They were all paid and done. They were like, the cops are here. What's going on? Did somebody get hurt? Did somebody have a heart attack? No, some woman called the cops on me. I'm like, I don't even know what she wanted. Did she want them to force me to give her money back? She had like Brillo pad hair. Oh. She refused to use conditioner. She actually yelled at my assistant when we were doing her color not to use conditioner. And I had to go lean in the sink and like school her. Like, lady, your hair is going to, no conditioner. You have to use conditioner. There's no way. Your head looks like a Brillo pad. So we did what I felt was best for her. And I explained in detail and even promised her, I had to color everything down to a darker tone and then add some subtle highlights in. She wanted a lot of highlights. You know yourself. You can't just go willy-nilly and like, you don't just jump in and do it. You can't just be like, sure, that's fun. No, you have to do what you feel is best. I mean, your name is on that. And I gave her the dissertation on this is what I think could happen to your hair. So why don't you just trust me on this? You come to me, I'm a professional. You want to be here? I could get you here with time and the
Mm.
right proper use. I could get you there, but it's not going to happen overnight. And I thought she understood. By the time I got in, she left the salon that day at 6:30 in the evening. I opened up at 10 o'clock. The phone was ringing. She had already left 3 voicemails, and I looked on the caller ID. She called 8 times. So I answered the phone, and to be honest, I answered the phone and pretended I wasn't me because I just didn't want to deal with it. And she was screaming, "I'm miserable. I'm not going to leave my house." And I just said, "Oh my God, I should have known." So I should have known, and I shouldn't have done it, and I did it, and I'll never do it again. And she gave such material for this book. So thank you.
Okay,
Thank-
so there's so many lessons, right? Because especially for this younger generation, like listen to your
oh,
intuition,
they
but
would have got, they would have left. They would have left the lady in the
they
seat.
would have left. They would have been like, "Oh, no, I need to," which is fine. I love therapy, but they would have been like, "I need to go to therapy. I can't. I need to take a weekend off."
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh, they would need a hug, a cookie. I'd have to give a back rub. I mean, forget it.
I
It's
mean, it's whatever, but it's also like, come on, you guys. This
yeah.
builds character. Like you need this so you know and you it's initiation.
I agree with you there so much because I've kind of always crazy people always seem to come to me. Like not all. If anybody's listening to this, like who sits here, I have like a certain level of crazy that
Yeah.
I'm attracted to, and I got news for you. I'm pretty good with them.
Yeah.
Break them. Um, I gotta say though, it does build character, and you know what? It's almost like a project. Like,
Hmm.
okay, this one's tough. You just have to. What you have to do in those situations, and I try to impress this upon the younger generation. Slow your roll,
Yes.
very clearly, map it out. You don't
Hmm.
go and resort to that back room to mix anything until you're both on the same page. Communication is key. And in any situation, what we do behind the chair, if you don't explain it, you have to get on the same page with them before you move forward, especially with a certain level of crazy.
Hmm.
You have to just understand before you walk away during that consult to go mix and do and formulate. You both are on the same page. So that's rule number one. Rule number two, as you're working, tell them what you're doing. Don't surprise them because they'll say, "I didn't know you were putting highlights back there. I didn't know you were coloring that." No, I'm going to put a little extra color here because I see your roots are a little resistant. You have a little bit more hair on this side, so you might find that there's more foils on this side, but that's the reason why. Blah, 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 blah. I need to do that. Tell them what you're doing.
Hmm.
My clients look at me like, "Shut up, just do it." But I feel like I still go
Yes.
through all those motions. So when this younger generation, if they got that woman in their chair, they'd be in therapy. They'd be in rehab somewhere, with
Mm.
the physician sucking their thumb. They would not be able to do it.
Or
But
a huge lawsuit. Or a huge lawsuit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then if they're real young, then I wind up getting like, the mothers would be calling in sick for them, you know.
Oy, oy, oy.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That's when the wine would come out and the iPad would come out and I would and yeah, a lot of those stories. But I really feel that maybe these crazy people make us better. I mean, maybe some of these bad situations that we go through, we come out on the other side and we're like, "God damn, I'm pretty good."
Yes.
And then you also have to know you can't make everybody happy.
Right.
So you got to try your best to. But if you've started from square one by explaining what you do and every step along the way, and if you build a relationship, and I was lucky enough in the early part of my career to be mentored by Gino Stampora.
Mm.
And is in my ear every minute of my day. And I was about 16 or 17 when I met him. And I have communication with him. And I explain this to him all the time and I thank him. You have to build a relationship, even if it's the first time. You have to make sure that you are on the same page with people, especially because they're putting their precious hair in your hands.
Hmm.
They're allowing us to do something for them. They're letting us in their circle.
Hmm.
So you're taking care of people. Don't lose sight of what they want. If it's not good for them, explain why. If it's
Hmm.
still what they want, work out a way to get them there that's close enough to make them happy and that it'll be good for them. Make it possible for them to trust you enough that if they're not happy, they will tell you. Because you know that silent customer
Yeah.
that's like, it's good. They go home and they hate it.
Hmm.
And what do they do now? They go on Google, they're giving bad reviews, they're telling everybody about it. You don't want that. So, in
Hmm.
order to avoid that, you have to make sure that you've connected enough that if they do leave unhappy or they get home and they're really not happy, they will come back to you. Because
Hmm.
9 times out of 10, if they don't feel connected, if you don't explain what you did, if you don't talk about the things that you're doing and make sure that they're on board for this, like this is a partnership, they don't feel that connection. They've got a sister, they've got a neighbor, or someone on Instagram looks like they do better work, and they're going
Hmm.
to leave you. So, in order for you to retain and to be able, you got to stand behind your work.
Hmm.
Maybe you did something and they're not happy for it. Just take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the newer generation, they're just like, oh, that one's crazy. I'm just like, no, no, I'm not dealing with that. You don't
Zero. They take no risks. No risks
have
at all.
no, and it's like they just want the perfect client in their chair. And
Hmm.
the newsflash, there is no such thing. You
Exactly.
get 10 clients in a day and 9 could be perfect. One's going to give you a hard time. You have to be prepared for that. You got to
Yes.
build up that invisible callus
Yeah.
and learn how to deal with it. It's what
Yes.
we do. This is part of our
So,
job.
so with that being said, with that being said,
Yes.
how do you how do you nourish yourself? Because what
How,
we do is freaking draining, right? Like,
how,
how do you personally like feed your soul, feed your heart, your mind, all of that?
it's, I'm so consumed in my job and it is so important. Um, I can't say I eat well. I love food. I probably eat for survival in the salon, but then I make up for it when I'm not. So I find something that's very important, and it really does help feed my soul, literally and figuratively. I need to do fun things
Mhm.
that I on my time off. So when I go to work and I'm having a stressful day, I go, wow, you know what? That was fun. We took a ride. We were in the city and we had brunch.
Yeah.
I have to like kind of have the very recent memory of something fun that I just did. And
Mhm.
then when I go to work and I'm standing behind that chair and I'm having a rough day, I look back and like I mentally like I go, oh, okay,
Oh,
well, that's fun. And then I'll maybe do it again this weekend. Like so that's how I kind of play the mind game with myself.
okay.
Um, Physically, now that I'm 51, been doing this since I'm 15, so my body's different. I have to keep my body in good physical shape.
Yeah.
I just did Pilates this morning. I mean, it's so important because there's times that I lax and I don't do it. My body pays the price for it.
Mm,
Physically, you have to keep it like motion is lotion. You got to
yeah.
keep the body. And I find what we do is very, very challenging and very, very physical. So that I do. I guess more like the spiritual sense. It's the journaling.
Hmm.
That's a real good outlet for me. I have no children. I chose not to, so it's like
Hmm.
I'm free to come and go and do what I want. Um, and I just find just enjoying my time that I'm not there
Yeah.
is probably the best medicine. It puts the fuel back in the tank for me to go back and do it
Mhm.
again.
Yeah. And you do talk about this, which I found that the children piece. I
Mm.
found that so I don't know, liberating,
Oh,
but important because it's not that, oh, you're gonna be a business owner, so don't have kids. It wasn't about that. It was more like this is a personal choice because I have a goal. I have something else that I'm going towards, not the traditional family thing. And I just want you to talk about that a little bit because I know for the
yeah. Oh,
younger,
happy to talk about it. It's
yeah,
funny. I
everybody's like, oh, I need to, especially for me. I'm in my 30s, and everybody's like, when are you gonna get a boyfriend? When are you gonna get this?
oh,
Leave me
okay.
alone.
When are you gonna die? Everybody's got to know. You know what? Tell them to read your book. I'm putting it out in a book. You could read it. You know what? Everybody just needs to learn to mind their business.
Yeah.
Everybody's life is their own. As a kid, I'd be with my girlfriends at the mall and we'd be shopping and they'd see a baby stroller and they would like dart to the baby stroller and be like, oh my God, oh, it's so cute. I'm gonna have a boy first. I'm gonna have a girl. And I'd say, oh, I'm gonna be by the shoes. Like it just never,
Right.
it just wasn't this gravitational pull. And every one of my friends has kids. My sister's got kids. My brother's got kids. My cousins have kids. I'm like Aunt Nikki to everybody. And I love that because Aunt life is the best. Been surrounded by kids. It just never was something I really wanted to do. And when the time came that my friends were all having babies and like kind of
Mhm.
going into that next level and that next chapter of their life, I was working for somebody. I really wasn't happy working for her. The salon was a little toxic, but was in my
Mhm.
bubble, so I was
Mhm.
I was still doing it. I realized that I was envious of it in the level of like I wanted another level. Like
Mm.
I wanted another chapter, but it didn't involve babies. It was something
Right.
that just, my husband is 15 years older than me. I was 20 when I met him. We say he stole me, he abducted me out of the playground. But we really both, from the very beginning, he told me about how his didn't want to have kids. It was just, I've always let my stomach lead me. It just wasn't something I aspired to have. I figured maybe one day, 20 years old to make a
Sure.
decision like, and we both agreed if the time came and I really did want it, we would discuss it. I
Right.
don't do anything unless I really think about it. I don't jump off the ledge, but it never really got to that. And truly, I just never thought about it. I opened up the shop because I didn't want to have kids. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I needed another level. I needed that next.
Mm.
And it wasn't until, and I do discuss in the book about I had some medical issues. And at
Mm-hmm.
41, I had a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yes, 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 yes.
and I had been on birth control since I was a teenager because I had this really terrible periods, very erratic. So my doctor did put me on them. I never got off of them,
Mm-hmm.
never got off of them. So they never did me wrong. But wasn't until I was 41 and this happened. And the OBGYN I was working, that was my doctor, she said, she took me off of them immediately because they realized that the stroke came from the catalyst was the birth control pills. They were a clot causer. And I had a hole in my heart. And now,
Oh,
sudden, it was like these clots that I was getting. The only indicator of me having a situation that would give me a stroke was the birth control pills. Cholesterol's fine. I'm not a diabetic. I don't smoke. It was that.
mm.
So he said to me, I don't know if you were waiting because you've been my patient, but like, I don't think it's wise for you to have children from this point. Like, I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. So then it's done. Like, I'm good. Like, I never really, like, wasn't upset over it. And I told other people, my own sister was like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, oh, it's okay. Like, I felt like somebody made the decision for me because I was
Right,
really not pulling the trigger on it. And
right.
I feel that people need to do what's best for them. It worked out in my favor to own a business and not have the worry or the distraction of children. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
at 51 now, I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I'm surrounded by kids. I love them. And funny enough, I am, and I don't do a lot of children's haircuts, but
Now
I
you're
am
doing kids.
the best children's hair cutter because I have such a way with them that they do so well in my chair.
I love it.
And they all said to me, you should have had kids. You're so good with them. No, I'm good with them for 15 minutes. Now take them away
Take them
and
away.
go. I sugar them up and I give them lollipops and I'm great with them in my chair. But I've stuck true to myself. My husband and I have always been on the same page about that, and I've dealt with it.
Yeah.
I, I did I read. There's a story about
Mhm.
there was a woman who I've known since I was a kid. She was a client of the salon, and my husband being 15 years older than me getting married at 24 years old, she was like, this woman. When he, I mean, he's so old. He's so old. Your eggs are getting old. Your eggs are getting old. When you're having a baby, you're 25 now. He's gonna be 40. Your eggs are getting old. You're not getting any younger. And I actually lied to her and I
Yeah.
told her the girlfriend of mine was trying so desperately to get pregnant
Mm-hmm.
and was having such a problem. And it was so upsetting to her when people would say, like, why don't you have a baby yet? She didn't want to
Yeah.
share with anybody. So I used her story. I actually told her, I leaned in and I said,
Mm-hmm. I love this story.
I'm not able to have children. And she was like, and I'm like, So I'm only telling you because you don't understand how upsetting it is to hear, because I'm channeling my girlfriend
Right.
that every time you come in and ask me if I have, I'm not able to. So I would really appreciate it if you would stop. And this woman was like, jaw on the ground. She's like,
Good.
I said, well, then you have to understand, it's not your, it's not your,
It's not your business.
like, butt out. But I really thought about my girlfriend, and then I went home and I
Yeah.
told her about it. And she was like, good for you. Like, people do this to her and they shame
Yeah.
her. So through the years, people thought maybe like what's wrong with her? She doesn't want to. Guess what? It's not for everybody. It's not for me.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean I don't like kids. I like them. I just don't want to child rear.
Right. I just love it.
Crazy.
I just love it because you have to know yourself
Mhm.
enough to know what your future self would want
Yeah.
and just stay true to that. Like, I feel like a lot of people are just kind of floating around. They don't know who they are or what they want or why or any of that. And you are such an amazing example of that.
Well,
So
thank
thank
you.
you.
Just, you know what? Because I've always felt, be honest with yourself. And if I changed my mind, I would change my mind. So if
Right.
I decided, if I woke up and I was 36 years old and I'm like, you know what, I think I want a baby, I would have one. Or you know, it's okay. I'm human. But I
Right.
think that I've dealt with the ridicule of it all. I mean,
Yeah.
people have said, like, oh, aren't you afraid? Who's going to take care of you when you're old? I'll pay somebody to wipe my
Yeah.
that. And you know what? Why should I have kids to worry about that?
Right.
Because
Right.
nobody's going to be happy with your decisions. And then what if I had one? They'd say, oh, you can't have just one. Like,
Oh my
mind your
God. Yes.
in your lane.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So then now this is a good transition.
Oh,
What do you want to be remembered for?
oh God. I don't know. What do I want to be remembered for? I definitely am. I apologize for this annoying voice of mine because I don't want to be remembered by this like Marissa Tomei, Fran Drescher,
Oh my God, no.
raspy. No,
Stop.
yeah, you know how many times I have to change the voicemail? It's like, oh, I can't stand my voice. So apologize for that.
No.
Um, I, I feel very confident that am a success case behind the chair in my own lane. What I did and where I got here is where I belong, and it worked for me. It might not work for anybody. They might read my book and say, this bitch doesn't know what she's talking about. Whatever works for you is fine. Everybody should just stay true to themselves. I want to be remembered for making people happy. I want to be
Mhm.
remembered for being part of people's lives. You know, I talk about some sensitive things too. I mean, I could give your kid a first haircut, but I could also shave your hair when you're going through treatment.
Mm.
And I've gone to the nursing homes and the hospitals to do their hair.
Mm-hmm.
The last time, get emotional.
Mm-hmm.
It's There's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad. You know,
Yeah.
we'll deal with crazy people and we'll deal with hard clients, but you know what? The relationship building, these people view me as family. I view them as family. And you know what? That's what I think in my heart. I think at the end of the day, when I'm not around anymore or something, or they're with other people, they always will. I want them to look back and just know that I always cared and I
Mm.
always gave them 100%. And that and that you know, I'm genuine about everything I do. So
Mhm.
that is probably in a nutshell what I would want people to remember me by. You know,
Is that
my
is,
charming sense of humor too. I mean, and my quick wit, my Jewish dick.
which I love it. I love it.
I do feel like if anybody could think about me down the road, you know, I feel more love from clients that have sat in my chair and the relationships that I've made through my career with my employees, my staff, my coworkers, my people. You know, that's more special to me than anything else.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
What is a lesson through all of this? From the book, from working in the salon, from owning a salon, what is the one lesson that you have learned from the industry that you wish everybody not in the industry would just get?
I I don't care how times have changed and how things have changed. Success comes from hard work.
Mm.
You don't put it in, you're not going to get it out. And
Hmm.
I really feel that when I view the younger gen, and I don't want to say younger because I know people who are in their 30s, 40s,
Right.
50s deciding to do this,
Right.
the newer generation, it's not easy.
Mm.
Anything in this world that is worthwhile is not easy.
Mm-mm.
And I feel that people think it is.
Mhm.
They think that it's, that's the lesson. I feel that you got to get your hands dirty. You got to work hard. You got to put the hours in. You have to work like a dog? No, but I think that you have to put into it. And I feel that some people are jumping ship because it's just they only want to put in the bare minimum,
Mhm.
and that is never going to cut it.
Mm-mm.
And I really feel that goes not just the hair industry, but I think that's every industry. I feel that hard work pays off.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's
Absolutely.
worked for me. As I said, I don't think you have to work like a lunatic, but I feel, you know what, when you're young and you want to build a career, you better stay late and you better come early. And you got to say yes to a lot of things. And you
Mhm.
know what, down the road, you could understand your boundaries and you can make rules for yourself. But you better be hungry. And that's
Yeah.
something I'm finding is like the hunger is not there. They're like, well, I don't want to work. I had a girl tell me she doesn't work Saturdays. Seriously? Like in the that's the day. Like it's like going to church. People go to temple, they're going to get their hair done. But
Right.
you know what? In the beginning of your career, you don't have that luxury.
Right.
Maybe later on you can take off a Saturday. I'm not against it. I mean, I don't. I work. I'm first one in, last one out. I am
Right.
an operating owner. And
Right.
I've been shamed for that a little bit by people in the industry, in these recent years, that
Mhm.
I'm not really a good salon leader because I still work behind the chair. Well, guess what? I had somebody walk out and there were a lot of people that stayed. And guess who did their hair? Just a few months ago, one of my girls got sick and she was out of work for 8 weeks. I'm the one that went in on Monday and did their hair. I'm the one that stayed late. So I feel that as an owner, I like being an operating owner, and that's what works for me. I don't ever want to leave the chair because you never know when you're going to need to go back behind it. So
Right.
that's really the lesson. I mean, everybody should do what they feel is best for them.
Mhm.
Um, but for me, I just feel this is a dirty industry.
I love it. No, but it's dirty in that way. Yeah, like you're people say, "Oh, you're
Dirty,
chained."
like you're going to have to
Right. Get in there. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
Which, by the way, I shared your book with my mom, who I'm in partnership with her, and she does
Mm,
work behind the chair. And she was like, "Oh yes, oh yes," like the whole time, like everything. She was like, "Oh my God, yes, exactly. I say that. Yes, you can't do that." Like it was so beautiful
thank you.
because she does work behind the chair.
And I value that because she's
Yeah.
obviously been doing this way longer than you and I.
Well, she's about your age.
Oh, oh my God. Okay. All right.
You guys could be friends. It's fine. But anyway,
She,
she loved it.
oh, I'm so glad. I'm glad.
Okay. So now the time is escaping. So now what do you have going on right now besides the book, Super Hero? Go get it, everybody. Besides the book, how can people work with you? How can they get in contact with you? All that.
I have a website. You can reach me at superhero.co. It's not com, it's co. You can reach me that way through Instagram. Superhero the book 2024. You can reach me that way. Um, I am open to anybody that wants to chat. I am open to anybody that wants to learn. Um, I love the industry, and if anybody just has questions and they want to learn, they want to just chat. They want to yell at me and tell me that it's my way, right way. That's okay too. I'm open to it. But yeah, you can reach me those ways, and I'm ready for it.
I
Come
love
and get.
it. Uh, okay, one final question. What is one question that you wish I would have asked you that I did not, and how would you have answered?
Question. I don't know. We covered a lot of territory. Well,
Yeah, we
one
did.
question. Let me give me a second. One question. I don't. I honestly don't know. I think we really touched on so much. I don't know what we're missing. One question. How do I stand in heels all day? Easy. I just
Okay.
one question. I don't know. No, no. I think Krystine, you're good.
I
You're good.
love it. I love it.
Oh, you are, that's what you should have a podcast.
Ah! Oh my goodness, Nikki, thank you so much for being on the Beauty Pro podcast. This has been so fun. I'm so excited for everybody to hear our conversation, to buy the book. I am going to be placing my order very
It's
soon.
available on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com.
Yes. And we're gonna have the links in the show
Yeah.
notes.
Mm-hmm.
And follow Nikki and get the book. Anyway, thank you so much. We'll see you later, everybody.
Take care. Bye bye.